Hey!
This is JJ and Alex.
I made a name for myself. I told you I won't be denied.
As you wrap up your day, it's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Lowry tries to come to the top. It's an inbound pass inside the lane. It's knocked around. Comes out to Sexton for three to tie. Yes! My goodness! 2.9 left. Half-court shot for the win. Yes! Trae Young waves goodbye as he hits a half-court shot. And the Atlanta Hawks beat the Utah Jazz.
I mean, you got to give it up for Locke. He had as much energy for that call. Now, you just got to respect the fact that a guy hits a half-court shot like
pro.
that, right?
A true pro.
I mean, the reality is that was a phenomenal
The call met
finish.
the energy of the moment, even though it was the wrong team.
Right. I've seen the home guys go in the tank immediately when that shot gets made, and that's not David Locke. You know why? Loves basketball. And if you're in the building for that sequence of because I remember watching. Were you in the building for what's his name? Dellavedova, Matthew Dellavedova hitting that half-court shot.
I remember it vividly. Yes.
After Tyler Haas drains the three.
Yes.
And everyone's like going nuts, and then to have the shot get made. Oh my gosh! Like,
is Dellavedova the most hated player among longtime BYU fans? Hated's probably the strong word.
Hated is pretty strong word.
Is he like the villain?
But but here's the thing. It's part of it is just the mouthpiece. I think that's half of it. Right? The fans hated the Dellavedova mouthpiece. And so that reminded me of that last night, that sequence of elation 1 second when you're like, we're going to OT, baby, to a guy hitting the half-court shot and walking out of there.
The thrill of victory and the agony of defeat all wrapped up in one moment.
In like 2 freaking seconds flat, 2.9, right? So, I mean, just a phenomenal way to end a basketball game. I loved it. And I hated it, and I loved it all at the same time. Because what have we been asking for? Give me the best game possible and take the L. And that was the best we could have done.
Yeah.
It was just a phenomenal game. But at the same time, you lose that one in heartbreaking fashion. And just a dagger to have it lost.
For those of you that left Delta Center early last night, sucks to be you.
I know. There were people, too. There were people in my family. It wasn't their choice, but they had a ride. Hey, we got to go. All right.
Hey, last night showed, before we get to Tim, I just want to mention, when we talk about the NBA, it's the problems with the NBA. Well, one of the problems with the NBA is the regular season games just don't have any meaning. Because,
I know.
But last night reminded you of what regular season NBA games can be and why the product is still good and the quality of play is good. We just don't have enough of those moments anymore because of guys sitting out all the time, blah, blah, blah. But that reminds you how great the NBA can be when it's played at that level, and you have endings like that, especially in the regular season. That was fun.
We got to open our show as we always do. G2G Bars brings you the program. A perfect protein bar for anybody who wants to get that quick, tasty, nutritious boost found at Costco, Holiday Oil, Maverick, Associated Foods, and many other places. In the refrigerated section, we got to get with Tim Reynolds here. He, of course, covers the NBA for the Associated Press. Let's get to it. It's the top of the hour here. It's The Cut. Let's get right to it.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And The Cut brought to you by Trajan Wealth, your local trusted financial fiduciary in retirement. Trajan Wealth, TRAJAN Wealth.com. Tim Reynolds, NBA writer for the Associated Press. Boy, that was a fun one for Jazz fans. You get the best of both worlds, a close game, and you lose. It's all good, Tim. Thanks for being on the program.
So I did not see the ending on this morning. And I'm like, oh, no. and I want to tell your listeners that this was booked yesterday.
I know.
I mean, not like we don't have stuff to talk about, And then that happens, and I'm like, oh, no.
No, but listen, we know what this year's about. I mean, come on. We got to be excited about that. You get good basketball, and you lose the
Jazz
basketball
fans
game.
got a great finish last night, and they got the L, so the Tank fans are happy.
Well, the fans who are like, anything but overtime, I guess they're happy.
Yeah, there's always that. There's always that.
It was a school night, so.
Well, let's jump in on some of this on this NBA action. What are your thoughts on this Jazz team, who are in a weird spot because this is a franchise we're used to winning here. We're used to watching teams win, and it's been a couple of years of struggles, but it's also been a couple of years of planned struggles, and it's just not something we're used to in this market. We're used to Jerry Sloan taking this franchise to 20 plus years of the playoffs. And I know that it's hard for our fans to listen. I mean, here on this is the home of the Utah Jazz, man. We got to listen to this team every night. We love the development of the players, but from a night-to-night basis, I've got a 16-year-old who I've got to explain that we have assets, and that doesn't mean anything to fans in some cases. How do you get through these things for a proud franchise? It's one thing to be a bad franchise historically, but when a proud franchise is going through a moment like this, what do you tell fans who are going through all this?
I don't even know where to begin, honestly, because I don't think the regular fan, the fan who's telling the 16-year-old about the assets that you can't move and this is why, as soon as we start explaining the nuances of the second apron to that 16-year-old, he or she will have checked out and is like, I don't care. I don't care. I'm going to go to the Utah Hockey Club game tonight. It is... I think the Jazz are clearly one of the teams that by no fault of its own, I mean, yes, this is a rebuild, clearly. Clearly it is a planned rebuild. Understood. Then this apron world comes in. The Jazz are not a wild spending team. The Jazz are not paying $100 million or $80 million or $40 million in tax. By no fault of their own, the Jazz are stuck in this weird nowhere space because there's not enough teams out there able to make deals because of the aprons. It's crazy. The league adds the play-in tournament. Okay, cool. So now 20 teams have a shot instead of 16. So before the trade deadline, everybody thinks that they're in it. Trade deadlines earlier. Play-in tournament means everybody's still kind of mathematically in it for the most part. No one's going to be sellers. And the teams that probably want to sell can't make a deal because of the aprons. I go back to the start of the year. The Cat for Julius Randle trade should have been pretty easy. And it took those guys almost a week to pull it off. Those front offices in New York and Minnesota, almost a week to pull it off because of all the complexities of this new CBA. And I know Jazz fans don't care. I know they don't want to hear it. I know they're like, that shouldn't affect us. It absolutely does. It absolutely affects Jazz fans. And I feel like this is a franchise who's stuck on the wrong side of it. They just don't – they want to dance, but they don't have a dance partner. It's what I should have said 2 minutes ago before I just started rambling on. But that's the easiest way to say it. You got to have a dance partner to dance. And there's just not enough dance partners right now in the NBA for anybody.
But and also what that does, Tim, and I think another thing that frustrates fans is you get a situation where these teams then really the best way to build your team is through the draft, but to do that you've got to be bad to give yourself as many ping pong balls as you can get to go get that star player. And we've got a couple nice drafts coming up, and so teams like the Jazz and you see others, the Nets tore things down, the Pelicans are in a bad spot even though they've got a lot of talent on their roster. All these teams are incentivized to lose. How does the NBA deal with that problem when almost up to a third of the teams, maybe even more, in the league having more incentive to lose than to win?
And some of that third is going to end up in the play-in tournament without even trying to get there.
Right.
It's crazy, right? I do think there's going to be a point where apron world evens out. Like, it's going to be a fascinating summer for Boston. Like, they've got all their guys locked up. They're all on these massive deals. They're trying to sell the team in various pieces over the next X number of years, whatever it's going to be. The tax bill could be enormous. It already is. It could be, like, ginormous going forward. They're in a different spot, obviously, than Utah. It's just the other end of this apron spectrum. We put in a new set of rules while teams had teams built, while teams had their directions charted. We're going to go about our team this way. We're going all in right now, or we're going to just see how we are, or we're going to tank, whatever it is. And then we put in a whole new set of operating rules. It's like when your phone automatically does the update at night and you wake up and you can't find any of your apps. I kind of feel that's what happened to the NBA a little bit. It is frustrating. The only thing I can tell Jazz fans is, and I know this is not probably a very popular statement, I believe in Will Hardy. I do. Let's not forget the system he comes from primarily. Let's not forget the guy who taught him most of what seems to be running right now. There's obvious talent there. It's not enough to compete, and unfortunately the West is really, 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 really good.
Well,
stay patient. It's going to have to turn at some point.
We were speaking of, if you had on the bingo card a couple of years ago that Oklahoma City and Cleveland would be facing off against one another with at 31-4 and 30-5 on a night like now, like, hey, no, those are going to be the two hottest teams. Who's the real team out of those two who are facing off tonight between OKC and Cleveland?
Man, I really think it's OKC. I really do. And I know Dallas kind of exposed them a little bit last year. You just pester the heck out of Shea, and you wonder if the other guys are good enough or were big enough. I think size was an issue for them last year. So what do? They go out and get Hartenstein, who I think is a huge gift for them. They paid him a ton of money, but they now have another really big rim defender, tough guy coming into his own. I saw the Thunder in person here in Miami. I've seen them in Orlando. I've seen them in Vegas. I've been around them in person enough this year, plus watched not all their games on TV. I won't lie. I don't know, 15 maybe. They just seem like they've taken a step forward. Shea has taken a step forward. The MVP race this year is going to be crazy because how do you not give it to Shea when I think we can all agree that Jokic is still the best player? The MVP race is going to be wild. It's like, how do we define it? And this year is going to be nutso for that. I love what Cleveland's doing. I absolutely love watching them, love the way they play. And this isn't a knock, but I just look at them and I'm like, this kind of feels like a regular season thing to me and not something that's going to get out of the second round of the playoffs. I might be wrong. I still don't know if they beat Boston 4 times in a 7-game series. I don't know if they beat New York 4 times in a 7-game series. If Orlando gets healthy, I think they can give Cleveland problems. Remember, they took them to 7 last year in round 1. I think there's a lot more problems in the East for Cleveland than there are for OKC in the West.
These are two great teams, and Tim, it feels like 10, 15 years ago, if you had a matchup, let's say it's Lakers-Celtics with similar records in the regular season, like that would be must-see TV. Like that would be a big story that people across the country are talking about. Doesn't feel that way tonight, even though this game is just – It feels like a great game with the two best teams in the league, and it kind of goes to this question about where the NBA is right now with drawing in the casual sports fan in the country. And you've got Kevin Durant criticizing entitled NBA fans who are questioning players' effort. And you look around and you got a guy like Zion Williamson who plays last night and has this great dunk, and then he's not going to play tonight. And there's all these issues going on with the league and its popularity and viewership and all this stuff. Where are you at on that? What do you think the real issue is, and do you think it's that big of an issue, or is it overplayed?
Well, I think part of the problem tonight for Cavs Thunder is that the Stanley Cup champions are in Salt Lake City. I mean, clearly. Let's not forget.
We could tell where you're from. We could tell where you're from, and I love it. Everyone's watching the defending Stanley Cup champs play Utah. We are. That's where our focus is.
We were having this discussion yesterday. It was like, hey, you're hosting the Florida Panthers for the first time ever in your barn. You're hosting the defending Stanley Cup champions for the first time in your barn, and so obviously that's a huge thing. And you cover all these things, and so it's fun to watch. And obviously in South Florida to have a Stanley Cup champion team is wild, because that's just we're in the world of where the NHL is not just a global game; it's a Florida game. And give us an idea of what your thoughts are of a brand new franchise though in Utah, because we've had so much dang fun with it this year, seeing this club fire things up in Utah here at Delta Center.
Well, let me combine the two questions. The one I didn't answer about the NBA and the NHL. So I've covered the NBA since the night they drafted that guy from Marquette in the first round.
Yes.
So I've been covering this team for a long time. You guys know who he is. We don't have
Jazz
to
owner. Jazz
I
part
was going to
owner.
say part owner of the Utah Jazz. Come on.
The Jazz are aware.
Funny how both of our worlds collide here right in this moment.
I misspelled his name that night. I did not know he spelled his first name incorrectly. I didn't know. I spelled it right. It's you go to an NHL game right now, and the energy is just different. And I don't know why. I know the Panthers are good. Like, I went to 20 years of bad Panther games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you think the Jazz are having a moment, I encourage you to look at the history of the Florida Panthers. Their moments were decades. Their moments were generations of pain. It's the building was half empty. It was dead. You'd give tickets away and people still wouldn't go. You couldn't give people a free ticket to go to a hockey game. The NHL announced today 2 outdoor games coming to Florida next year. A game in Miami where the Marlins play, a game in Tampa where the Buccaneers play. 100,000 people are going to do outdoor games in Florida next winter. It's all changed real quick. You don't see that same energy in a lot of NBA games. Orlando, great building. Great building for fans. Great energy with Magic games. Great energy in Milwaukee for Bucks games. Always good energy in Cleveland for Cavs games. They've recovered from the shell shock of losing LeBron twice. They're back. OKC, incredible arena. Not enough NBA arenas are matching the energy of the NHL. I think it's fatigue of salary. I think it's fatigue of Zion's making how much, and he's missed how long, and now he's out again after one game, like you guys said. There's no hockey player making $51 million. There's no hockey player who's going to lose $2.4 million because he mouthed off against Pat Riley. Hypothetically, of course.
Right. You're talking about, right.
There you go. I don't know what I'd be talking about. I just think hockey right now is in a place where fans feel like they're getting more return on their luxury money investment. I have $200 to take my family to a game. I'm going to go sit in the cheap seats at Delta Center. I'm going to go watch the hockey club. What is the nickname going to be, by the way? Do we know?
Probably the Yeti,
probably
but
the
that's
Yeti.
not. They're still working through a lot of legal stuff.
Don't love it. I don't.
We've all kind of gotten accustomed. What the effect of the Utah Hockey Club has been. Like people are starting to. They're really liking the hockey club thing, and I think the Yeti thing is all but done. And so that's going to be a weird transition, too. And I know they got to rip that Band-Aid off at one point, but, man, people have kind of gotten – because of the love that it's gotten, it's the hockey club. And I think that, people are collecting these sweaters from the first year, and they're going to hold on to these things for dear life because they're going to harken back to a time when they're not going to have a weird logo because there's going to be somebody who gets a hold of it from some graphic designer who just out of college is going to get a hold of this thing and give us a weird Yeti cartoon that you're going to start worshiping as a hockey fan. But, yeah, either way, I mean, it's been a bonkers ride for us here either way. We've been loving it.
Why don't we just go full soccer? Why don't we just go, instead of FC Barcelona, why don't we just go HC Utah?
HC Utah. Hey, we don't hate it here. And we have an amount of love for this team that's wild. So, I mean, I guess that Yeah, we've all gotten used to this weird thing this year where we're starting to love this team, and I think come January we're going to figure out come in the next couple months they're going to probably announce it.
Everyone's just glad that they have a team.
Yeah.
They don't really care about the name.
Yeah.
No, I think it's great. They'll figure out the seating. They'll figure out all the weird stuff. Like, I think it's great. And obviously it's a winter sports city. There's an Olympics coming back to Salt Lake in a dozen years or so, whatever it is. It's actually less than that, 9 years now.
Yeah.
Olympics back there. It's wonderful. The NHL belongs in Salt Lake City. I'm not saying it doesn't belong in Phoenix. I hope they figure it out, but it's great that Salt Lake City got an NHL team. Mm-hmm. My point is, it's if a family of four can afford to go to, say, one game a winter, and we're going to do it right, we're going to get decent seats, and the kids are going to get jerseys, and everybody's going to get hot dogs, and my daughter's going to get the Utah Hockey Club bear mascot, whatever it is, and my son's going to get the toy stick and the whole. We're going to do it right. I think mom and dad feel like they're getting a lot more value from hockey club than they are the basketball club right now. Not knocking the Jazz. I just think in general with the NBA.
Yeah.
Because look at the upcoming schedule. All right, this team's coming. Well, you've got the Heat there tomorrow night. Now, you've known for a week that Jimmy Butler's not playing tomorrow. But what if it's a family that, what if mom and dad met at Marquette and they followed Jimmy through college? They're not going to see him. How many times does a star not play in Utah? How many times does a star not play when that team comes through your town once a year?
More than any other team in the NBA, Tim.
I know, and it's a real problem. It's a real problem, not just in Utah, but everywhere. It's wrong. And there's nothing, $50 million salaries, nothing's going to be, every player in the league is its own little individual corporation right now. Look, they didn't demand the money. The league gave them the money. The CBA allows for these ridiculous, it's not ridiculous, it's what the market bears. But if a guy says, I don't feel it tonight, and he's making $700,000 that game, you're not going to risk it. That's why, you got to love the guys like Steph who understand, particularly in the East. I come through there once, they're going to see me. Whether he plays or not, he's going to get seen. There's still some really good guys in the league like that. LeBron has always taken that approach. It hasn't always worked out flawlessly, but LeBron knows people pay to see him. Yes, they want to see the Lakers, but they pay to see LeBron. Some guys get it. Hockey players, this guy's leg is broken in 6 places. He's questionable for tonight with a lower body injury. It's just a different mindset. And that's what I think the big difference between the NHL and the NBA is. And that's why the NHL knows it has a moment right now to really make some inroads in places like Miami, like Tampa. Obviously, they've won cups. Miami, the Panthers got the cup last year. It's working in warm weather cities where a lot of people didn't think it would because people are getting value. That's just what it is.
Tim Reynolds, he covers the NBA and all the other sports in South Florida, and he does a phenomenal job at it for the AP. And love having you on the program, Tim. We'd love to have you on again, and thanks for hanging out with us. And have fun watching the Hockey Club and the Panthers tonight for their first trip to Salt Lake City to Delta Center to take on the Hockey Club.
I cannot wait to watch HC Utah, and anytime you guys want me on, just let me know. Thanks, guys.
We'll send you a Yeti hat as soon as they put them out.
Love it.
You're first on the list.
Appreciate it, Tim. Thanks, man.
See you guys.
There you go. He's got about as much cover. I mean, he has to write about everything.
Tim's great, and he's been covering. He's covered the NBA for a long time, and specifically the Heat, and one of the best that does it. And so it was great to talk to him. And about a number of things.
You're winning championships for the Heat, and then suddenly the Panthers get good again. So at least somebody's playing well at some point all the time.
Yeah, it feels like Miami fans have been spoiled as of late.
Yeah. If only the Dolphins could come around. We'll see.
Someday.
All right. We got to take a break. So stick with us right here, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.